every time.
I know, every time. I feel like
Every time.
I was thinking before this, like, let's not point out the screens, but it's kind of hard not to when there's
You're
like,
just like, whoa.
There's so many.
there's 6 of me in this room right now.
I feel like I don't know which one to look at.
That's perspective. Yeah, I don't know which one to look at either.
That's
So I'm
okay.
just gonna
We don't have to
generally
look
look
at
at that way.
There's actually like there's 6 other universes that we're in. It's
That's
reflecting back
cool.
to us.
Multi-dimensional.
Like
Yeah.
5 different portals have been opened according to Phil Good.
Whoa.
I don't know. I'm just saying stuff now. It might be true. It might not be.
I dig it. I think you're right. I think we can set our intention that we're gonna open portals to consciousness.
Yeah.
Oh, we're getting some hearts.
Ooh, yeah.
Some
People are liking what we're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Portals.
Woo! Oh, it looked like that thing just popped out of the diffuser.
Oh, AJ.
But it wasn't.
AJ Gavoni joined. I see you.
Hi, AJ.
I see you, AJ.
Yay.
I can't type the things, but I see you.
You can't type things, read the things.
Wait,
That's
who else
impressive
is
that
there?
you can read the things. I can't.
Yeah, no, I can.
I
I see
know.
green blobs.
I know.
Yeah, me either.
Well, hold on, Krystal. Now I can't read anything.
Oh, your sister's on.
Oh, what's up, sis? Where is she?
Yeah, I
She's
can't
on.
read anything
Oh,
else.
all right.
Well, here we are.
What if the green blobs are like otherworldly?
We're gonna get real.
Okay, guys.
Yeah, we're gonna get real.
It's 9
Real
a.m.
interesting
I
today.
promise we did not do the herb before this.
We
We're
did
all
not.
ready to go.
We
Speak for
did not.
yourself.
This is just us. Well, I don't know why I want to tell the people, but I'm getting new glasses because these ones are like this.
Oh,
so that's
Sean!
pretty sure. It almost went in my coffee, but it
Oh
didn't.
my god, I thought that would have been
I
coffee.
did too. I thought for sure it was in the coffee.
I thought that was like a blue.
That was like a 3-pointer.
Oh my
And
god.
now it's like,
And
yeah.
now it's like I'm not the
hysterical.
hero. I went
Right.
from Kobe to not Kobe. So.
Wow, that was fun.
Yeah.
Well, that worked out well. I got a good laugh out of them.
Oh
But
my
I will be
goodness.
getting new glasses, so that's exciting. That's my announcement.
My announcement. I don't think I have an announcement.
Do you want to just make one
Yeah.
on the spot?
Your announcement should be that these earrings are so
Do you like
bomb.
these? Oh, thank you. Every time I wear these, I get compliments. Like every 5
What's the
minutes.
stone?
That's an excellent question. The brand is Coconut Maple, Lauren Watica. Check her out. Instagram, Coconut Maple. Christmas gifts.
Yay.
Woo woo.
Oh
Thank
my
you.
god, it's Christmas. Like tomorrow.
My throat's not
It's not tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, let's get this party started. We're gonna introduce ourselves for your people who may not know who we are. Talk about what is this
You
called?
wanted to say
Wild.
vibes.
I did
Wild
also
stuff.
wild hearts. Wild hearts. And then we will have Krystal introduce herself. So
Yeah.
I'm Michaela Jean Photography. So my business, for those of you who don't know, I photograph couples, adventures, intimate couples, weddings, elopements, that kind of thing. I also have a other side of my business, which is kind of women's empowerment. I host workshops. Yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Okay.
I'm never good at that.
That's okay.
This is Sean.
This is okay. Hi, my name's Sean Adam. With Up and Adam Inspirational Speaking and Life Coaching. I got into that world just kind of based on my own personal experience with challenges with mental health and overcoming those, and just want to give that gift back to people because I know what it's like to kind of sit in that dark place and really feel like that's who you are and that there's no escaping that jail cell, and just want to share that freedom with everyone else and that hope and that you can overcome challenges and start a business and create a podcast and be a waiter all at the same time.
Oh,
Boom.
baby.
And now we're moving to Krystal,
Yeah.
and she's going to tell you who she is.
We're excited. I'm really hot.
So I'm Krystal Couture. I have a holistic healing practice here on the seacoast in Portsmouth and Newburyport. I also lead dolphin retreats, and that's sort of the simplest way to describe who I am.
I feel like
I'm
that's
sure
like
we're gonna-
really simple.
really simple.
That's good though. You're just like
That's good.
You're setting them up. You're like, yeah, we're like, whoa.
There's
okay.
more to come, people.
There's way more to come. Well, let's tell the people how we met you.
Okay.
I think that's always interesting, right?
Yeah, go for it.
So I met you. Has it been like 2 years now?
I think it's been 2 years.
Oh
A little
my
bit more than
gosh.
2 years, actually.
Like just over 2 years?
Because it was, I believe it was fall when you started seeing me.
When did I? It must have been when I moved back. Like right after I got back from Norway, maybe?
Exactly.
Does that sound familiar?
Yes.
Of course you remember.
Yes.
Yeah, so it was right before I was moving to Australia, or right after I got back.
Oh. No, it was right after
Right
you
after I got
from
back.
Australia. Like literally right after you.
I was not Australia, Indonesia, because I didn't actually.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, because I was planning on moving to Australia, had an epiphany in Indonesia, moved back, came back, didn't necessarily move back, came back to New Hampshire, and then I was going through these I just started getting into like Reiki and like different like energy healing, and I just was like curious, and I was just looking up different like healers and like people on the seacoast area, and you were I think the first person that popped up, and I just like sent you a message I think. And I was like, I just want to like meet her for some reason. I don't really have like an explanation why. I just like felt called to, and I was going through like these two different changes. I was trying to decide if I wanted to go back to Australia, live there, or move to the seacoast, or start a photography business, or pursue holistic health.
Yeah.
And had an awesome, crazy experience with Krystal, and
I knew right away, like, she was like my girl, because she just came in so like open to whatever the universe was offering.
Oh my gosh. And that's like
so
exactly
cool.
what happened.
Yeah, we
oh
just
my gosh.
hung out in that gap space, and like cool stuff happened.
Yeah.
Translated.
That was the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful to know you.
I'm so grateful to know you.
It's been such a fun journey.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are having like a love moment here. We're like, I'll go sit on the rocking chair over there. I don't know if we're gonna have that same moment, but so I actually met Krystal because of Michaela. There's a little bit of backstory, so I feel like they have backstory, so I'm gonna have a backstory.
You can have a backstory.
Yeah, so I left my job as a healthcare recruiter, and then no longer had health insurance, and looked into that fun endeavor, and it was like, I think I got quotes. The cheapest one I got was like $885 a month, and like a $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 deductible. So I was like,
whoa,
just straight up, fuck that. And I just feel like in my experience of life, like I just don't think, even though my sister's a nurse, I love you, but I don't agree with all Western medicine. I don't think they look at the whole person. I mean, regardless, I mean, I've talked to nurses, I've talked to my sister, and it's like, based on insurance companies, it's just like, let's get you through as fast as we can, so you're not looking at a full issue. So I wanted to pursue more of a holistic pursuit, and then okay, I was like, got the lady for you. So
me like once a week.
I went to the lady, and the lady is Krystal. And it was such a great experience. I mean, man, I've had acupuncture before, but I remember those needles going in that right side, and that was whammy.
Yeah, it's wild. You know, it's like such an honor that people find me, but it's so sad that like healthcare is what it is. You know, like, man.
Well, I know for me, like it's just been like, I mean, we'll obviously dive more into what it is that you do exactly, but I know for me, like I've always never super resonated with what I've been told when I go to the doctor. It always felt like something that like didn't really come full circle, and like I never really understood what was quote unquote wrong with me, or like what I needed to like change after leaving a doctor's office. I always felt like there was like more and like something deeper to it, like it was coming from a more internal place than not something that was outside of me, I guess.
Right.
And that's like been the biggest thing that I've learned from you, and like seeing you and working with you, is that it really, like, we are so capable of healing ourselves, and it is this continuous journey where it's like, okay, your left knee hurts, like what is that, like what emotion can we kind of like relate to that, and then once you kind of work through that, like it leads you to something else. It's like this constant journey of like healing yourself, and I think we all need that. Right. And it's not just this like quick fix, like take this and that's gonna go away. It's like, let's really like work to like the root of what it is.
Okay, so but to be open to that in the first place, we have to be open to the idea of consciousness, right? Like we have to be tuned in to being conscious beings, like in touch with our bodies. And you guys are awesome. Like I know your bodies, so I can say that like you're tuned in that way. And so many people I'm sure that are listening are the same way. But like that consciousness, like tuning in is kind of the first step. And then it becomes like, once you put someone like that, once I put someone like that on the table, it becomes this awesome like sort of integration. Okay, what's going on? You know, and then it's just kind of like, that's where creation comes in, which I know is a big part of you guys' podcast and what you want to talk about. It's like I read the body, and then the body sort of guides me, and it's like, what's going on? You know, and like I hang out with the body, which is so cool. But really, I don't do that much. Like, I stick a needle here, I put my hand here, guide a little bit of energy, whatever. But it's the body doing the work. Like, I just, give it a little bit of an extra push to where it needs to go.
I feel super called to do this. Just keep going. Just go it. Throw it. Throw it.
I feel really overwhelmed right now.
I have no idea what just happened.
There's like a breeze that went through the room
Right?
when you left.
Whoa.
You're so funny.
Oh, whoa.
So sorry, I don't
Yes.
know. Like
I saw this online. Okay, I want to hear the story.
So
You're
I
so
just think
random.
people that like when we look at doctors,
Sarah Fennerty Art, by the way, super talented.
such
Okay,
a reflection.
so
I'm not.
this is
I'm
fine.
trying not to block you up, but like
It's okay.
when
It's me.
so for me, it's like Western medicine's like right here. Okay, we're just like hanging out on the shoulder, and then Krystal's like, "Hey, holistic medicine, right on into your inner universe, where all the things happen."
Yes.
I don't know why I just did this,
Yeah,
but
you
I
felt
love
called
it.
to.
You're totally right.
I just felt called to, and I also love this paint. What's her name?
Sarah Fennerty Art.
Sarah Fennerty Art.
S
Fair.
Fennerty Art on Instagram.
Boom.
So
talented.
beautiful.
Mic drop.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just felt like this. I loved this painting when I saw it last night. And is it painting?
Yeah. I mean, it is. It's like your whole universe in there.
You know what I mean? And I think
But
that's
isn't
how we
that
have to
what we
look
are
at it.
anyway?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like we don't
Like
look at it
we're-
like that though.
Yeah,
You
we're
know?
a universe like within the universe.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
space travel. I feel like as a holistic doctor, you're like, all right, let me hop in my spaceship and just go right on in there, like woo!
I haven't
can
ever
find
used that one before,
Yeah,
but
but
I
you-
think I'm going to.
Yeah,
from
you
now
can
on
find
in.
the planets a lot faster than like typical space travel. It takes like a bazillion light years, but like you just got that figured out, you know. But
Yeah.
that's the way I look at it, right? Like when we talked about excavating, like you're
Mhm.
excavating, it's a universe in there.
You're
And there, well, apparently
totally
there's a
right.
tree in this lady. I
I
probably
like
have
it.
trees.
That's really what calls
That's like
me the
the
most.
root.
The tree.
Right? The
Yeah.
root, the grounding
Ooh,
aspect.
yeah.
So if we think about, all right, so let's go into Chinese medicine.
All right,
for a
time out,
second.
we're gonna
So
get
if
rid
we
of
think about, the picture's perfect though.
Oh,
If we think about the
excellent.
microcosmic orbit, which is like the universe within us,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's the idea of heaven, earth, and humanity existing within us, which is really what the universe is anyway. So we're just a reflection of what is the universe or what is source energy, which is like awesome,
I know.
right?
Yeah.
I know.
So that's what we're working with. When we're like tapping in, when we're working with something on a body, in a body, then we're working with it within the universe too. So like it's helping to heal the grander perspective.
Yeah. Well, I think I think the network's like Gaia, right? You guys see that on Instagram all the time, right? The Gaia network. No, maybe.
The
sometimes.
TV
Sounds
station?
familiar.
I think I don't know if it's a TV station, but it's like Gaia network. But they have like all these like consciousness movies and blah blah blah.
Okay.
But I always remember like one of their like commercials on Instagram is like there's a guy that's like human beings are operating for the most part down here, but our capacity and our like is like way like I can't even reach. There's not enough.
It's infinite.
You know what I mean?
right?
Like we
Yeah.
are just scratching the surface of like where we're at. And I've also heard like when they talk about physics, even like what we know about physics is in a box.
Yeah.
It's a limited perspective of what's actually there. You
Okay,
know what I
so
mean?
two things that come up. This is so interesting because
Yeah.
they're starting to talk about quantum physics
Yes.
now, right?
Yeah.
Like quantum physics, quantum energy, which is hilarious because the energy healers are saying we've been saying this for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and like you're just trying to explain it now with physics, but it's always been around because the energy healers have known it.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
And then the other thing is like if we look at other species, like let's say the most developed species, so like apes, elephants, dolphins, whales, right? Because their EQ, so the size of their brain related to their body is how they, in theory, how Americans measure intelligence, right? Or humans measure intelligence, let's just say. So of another species. So those four animals are the closest to humans. Dolphins being the largest in relation to humans. So that's a species that's been around for 5 million years. Humans have been around for 200,000 years. So in 5 million years, they've obviously figured out more than we have. Like they've been in their current shape for 5 million years. That's insane. We've been in this shape kind of for like 200,000. So their evolution looks different than ours. And even though we're supposed to be smarter than them, it's like when we're with them, they give us so much. Like they teach us so much. The animals like have so much to offer us.
We
Even
watched-
like cats and dogs.
Yeah.
Oh, you're gonna say it?
Yeah, we watched a video last night, Sean and I,
Oh.
of a whale that saved a woman's life because like he the whale, she was like scuba diving, snorkeling.
She was snorkeling. She's a scientist. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and she was scuba diving. She was like all the way under the water. Yeah, and this whale like kept like blocking her and like coming around her and like putting his fins over her. And first she was like terrified, and then eventually realized that the whale, because the whale put her like on top of himself, right?
Put
And
on
like
her nose.
and was like pushing her through the water, and she realized finally that there was like a great white shark or tiger shark.
Yeah.
Tiger shark.
I saw that one.
It's
It's
so
it's
crazy.
Like it wouldn't leave her alone. You know what I mean?
Right?
Isn't that
Yeah.
so cool?
And brought her back to the boat.
They're so tuned in.
Yeah. But like in our conscious, like just shows how like fear and like that low level consciousness just takes you over. You're like, whoa, like what are you doing, whale? And it's like, dude, just stop resisting.
Just like trust.
Literally stop resisting.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if she just like took off and like, well, I mean, she did try to do that, but it was like, no,
He was
not
way too
in
big.
my house.
Yeah.
Not in my house.
Yeah.
That's so cool though.
But think about our day to day. Like things like this happen in the ocean all the time.
Yeah.
So in the ocean kind of gives you like a chance to feel really small,
Yeah.
which means you sort of have to tune into consciousness. Otherwise, you're in like crazy panic mode and it's over.
Yeah.
So what about in our daily life though? We're just like going to work and going to this and going to that and bringing kids here, doing this, that, and the other thing. Like we're missing all these amazing things that are happening around us. Like, that's the part that's scary.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we're all. I mean,
not all of us, but
so I want to talk about this.
There's always more.
This is my
that we
experience
just-
lately. It's like, so I have this thing with numbers. Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, no, it's
Like
good.
for the last, I don't even know, 3, 4, 5 months. Like and so numbers and vanity plates. Like I've been seeing like 1 1 1 1 1, 2 2 2 2, like 8 8. Actually, after the first. Actually, this is when it started. It was after your pageant, or sorry, is it a pageant? Miss America, whatever, New Hampshire. I always screw that up.
congratulations,
Yeah,
by the way.
but I literally like, it gets on like cheering you on. I'm like going home. First vehicle I pull out behind, license plate 2222, like smack in my face. So I'm like, and for me it's like I see you, and I've been having a lot of that. And then like we saw one last night, or when we were driving gratefully, and then I get like a lot, like I have like a lot of animals and stuff. So it's like I see what's going on, but I don't always know how to decipher that. Like I feel like that's my work, is to like decipher the stuff from the guides a little bit more. But they're like.
Yeah, they're like doing the lighted signs in front of you.
There's like a it's almost like what's the Bruce Almighty? Remember when he's like, "Give me a sign," and there's like all the signs, and then he like gets hit by like a bus. Yeah, like I feel like that's kind of.
Oh yeah, I don't have seen that, but
yeah. There's also this one where there's like an airplane guy like dancing with the sticks.
Yeah,
that's going on. There's probably like an invisible guy like doing that. Yeah, waiting for me to see.
Well, it's so true.
So, but why not just look it up?
Well, I do look it up, but I mean, I feel like it's so like the transition. So I know like a lot of like the looking up and like what that stuff symbolically means and stuff. But like, I feel like I've had like some deeper people that are like in the healing world be like, listen to what the animal's telling you or something, or like, what does that mean?
You have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Like you can't start like all of a sudden one day like I'm communicating with dolphins. Like it's a process, right?
Yeah.
So like you start by kind of looking it up, and it's like, okay, 11111 symbolizes that the angels are with me, or my ancestors are with me, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, which angels are here, or like which ancestors are here, and like see if you get a ping on anything.
Yeah.
Like a name, or like something like that. And animals, you just kind of like you just keep watching them, and eventually they share. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Should we talk about your story now?
Yeah,
that was like 30 minutes of banter.
We're gonna come back to the dolphins. We're gonna come back to all that stuff. But let's just kind of tell. Well, first, can you tell people like what it is exactly that you do? I know you have like so many things that you do.
Oh my gosh, so many things. Okay, so a lot of people don't know about me. So I got into the healing field because my cousin got injured in a spinal cord injury. He got a spinal cord injury through a mud football accident. It was really kind of awkward and amazing at the same time because he was one of those extreme athletes. So he would be doing mud football, he'd be doing this bike racing, four-wheeling, like, up and down mountains, he water skated, he did everything, right? Yeah. And then one day, boom, that ended. He had a C6 injury and like no function below the level of C6.
Shit.
So that meant on like one arm, he has use of his bicep, and he has like some wrist extension, and he can breathe on his own and like kind of do everything on his own. And because of that arm strength, he can transfer by himself, which is pretty amazing. But it was like, I saw him in the hospital and he had like, holes bored into his head to drop the cranial pressure. And like, I was like, oh my God, like, how is this guy who did everything, like literally everything, going to live? Like, what's his inspiration going to be, And so he went out to like this awesome hospital, Craig Hospital in Colorado, which is like the best spinal cord hospital. At least it was at the time. I don't know so much now, but awesome hospital. And they basically like took this guy who had this injury and like told him, yes, you can be completely independent, like with your injury. And he came home 3 months later and he like could do everything. It was like, okay, so I have enough money to have a massage therapist come in and she stretches me and does massage, and like he had someone do cooking because he never wanted to cook for himself anyway. And now like 25 years later, he's like still independent, doing the same thing, has his massage therapist, has his cook come in, and like he has this cool design job where he uses like some kind of ball mouse. It's like adapted mouse to design welding parts in the computer, which is perfect because like they were able to weld him a new 4-wheeler. So he can still go 4-wheeling and like still do all of the things that he did. So it's like, it's kind of wild, and it's like, it doesn't look like what he thought it was going to look like. He thought he was going to have, legs and a trunk that really kind of worked. And they don't, but he was super independent. I was like, oh, I'm going to be a PT because I want to help people like, David got helped by those PTs. Fast forward, like, 10 years, I'm like, oh, like it was him. It wasn't really them. It was him, It took me a while to figure that out. And that's when stuff really started to click for me. And it was like, okay, how can I really best serve, And like, then my practice started to evolve in different ways and have this sort of essence of the whole body being with the whole person, and energetically everything started to light up so I could really see what was going on in a body. Beyond that, like the technical details, I learned cranial sacral therapy, so I use a ton of that in my practice, which includes the emotional components that you guys have alluded to that we work with. And then I stick needles in clients.
It hurts.
But it's
So
worth
good,
it.
though.
Right?
So good. I was just gonna finish
really,
it.
really worth it.
So good though. I mean, I think what I've learned about the healing process, like, I feel like this is like kind of screwed up to say, but it's like, if it doesn't hurt or there's not pain, then you're probably not doing it. Like, honestly, like, or that could be wrong, but I just feel like when pain and discomfort and those feelings come up, you're like, all right, like, it doesn't feel good, but you're like, all right, we're getting somewhere. That shit's surfacing, ready to be released. Like, at least that's my opinion.
What if we reframed it to like, if it doesn't make you feel vulnerable? Because I think like vulnerability could be pain, but it could also be that emotional discomfort as well.
Well, I think, does the pain come from the resistance as well?
Of course.
Yeah. That's what
That's
I feel
like pain is a pattern. So if we talk about myofascial, right? Pain is like a pattern that we created that we're holding to protect something. I mean, sometimes we're protecting something physically because it's, might have gotten hurt, but how often is it that it's just physical, right? So it's like a protective mechanism. Like there's always something, I think there's always something there. And then we just resist everything because it's like, oh, this is hurt now. So, there's that pattern within us that doesn't want to release. We're humans,
Going through some of that right now. Yeah. I think that's a better way of framing it, because that actually, I'm smiling because it resonates. I'm like, yep. That happened this morning.
Well, okay, so you go to school for PT.
Yeah.
And then...
so then this is really backwards. I went to school for PT and I was like, oh my gosh, something's missing. Like big time, something's missing. Oops. All that money and, whatever. So that's when I went to... Actually, it's weird how it happened. So I went into I was working in spinal cord and brain injury, of course, because of my cousin, right? Wasn't really my field, but I went into it just because I felt like called to do something to give back, basically, for what happened with David. I knew it wasn't emotionally healthy for me though, because I would like be dreaming of my clients over and over every single night. And I was like, okay, like I don't have boundaries. Something's not working. And like in the treatment time, like something's missing. So one day I walked into the cafeteria, which I never, like literally in 2 years, never stepped into. And there's this guy's name's Bob. I don't even know his last name. He passed away now. Rest in peace, Bob. He owned a massage school and was like, oh, just come to massage school. Take, you know, the Chinese medicine classes. And I was like, what? Like, why would I go to massage school? I'm already a PT, right?
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, he worked it out so I could take just like the elective kind of classes and like, you know, go through the program and have an awesome time. And I did, and stuff started to click. And then shortly after that, I got into the cranial sacral. And I was like, oh, okay. So the pieces from a logistical and practical perspective started to come into play. And the tools in my tool belt started to expand in such a way that like it was much more rounded for the whole body.
Mm-hmm.
But like I had stuff to work on, you know, like in order to really use those tools, like I had to go through my life and meet myself, you know, before I could really figure out how to use them.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So you meet Bob, and like thinking of maybe like your average person, or this happens to like somebody today, and they happen to go into the cafeteria, they're in the same role as you, and they meet this stranger and they just randomly say, go to massage school.
Right.
I feel like most people wouldn't just be like, oh, I must go to massage school now. Like,
Right.
what was
talk
us through that.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I just couldn't, like, it was the first time I stopped thinking about my clients over and over again at night, and I started thinking about something else. Like, I started thinking about what actually inspired me rather than getting stuck in, you know, the patterns of these seriously chronic patients, you know? And so that was enough of a pull to make me say, okay, I'm interested. And then I went and like sat down with him. I met one of the practitioners who taught most of the Indian-based traditions, like Ayurveda and stuff like that. And she, you know, she's like wearing a turban and like this beautiful white clothing, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's a goddess. Like I want to learn from her.
Yeah.
Like, how is she like that cool teaching at, you know, this regular school? And like I want to know her, you know. And then I met a couple of the other faculty members, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm in.
Yeah.
You know,
Cool.
like, but I just kind of had to trust.
Yeah.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the woman in the water with the whale, like
Yeah.
I had to just trust, like that. Okay, even though this doesn't make sense, like I gotta go with it.
I think that's so important too, because it's like, and I'm learning to do more of the whole surrender thing. Like it's obviously a practice, like you said, like anything. But I feel like the times when I'm just like some of the most like vulnerable times when I'm just like, okay, like I don't give up, but like, okay, what I'm doing is not working. Like I surrender. Just give me the things. I don't care what they look like. Just give me the things.
Yeah.
And I mean that's how I like started walking down this like holistic path, like chakras. I remember that came up for a second time. I was like, wow, this is weird, but maybe there's something to it. And like meditation, and like started walking down that path, and it's like I feel like there was like that first level of surrender, and it's like, okay, I know what I'm doing. And you're like peel back that layer, like, okay, I have no idea what I'm doing. Here we go again. Like, all right. And it's just this constant process, and I always have to remind myself, like, that as much as I think I know what I'm doing, it's like, just stop getting in your ego and just let them, like, just wave the wand for you. Or it's almost like the puppet things, I feel like sometimes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, we have free will, but, like, if you just go along their guideline, I don't know.
Okay,
like,
but aren't we just like?
I don't know how to describe
Okay,
that.
I've thought of this puppet thing before, and I feel like sometimes you have to like give up that essence of control. But I think that's just letting go of ego and letting like our own inner truth, like our essence, guide the way.
Okay.
And so it feels less like some extraneous factor that's like, you know, manipulating what's happening, and rather it's just our essence.
Well, I mean, so I guess the way I describe it too, and like more of what I'm saying though is like the universe, like there's a consciousness highway, right? Like, you know, there's like we're all one. Like I just showed one more time. I have my own universe within me, you know what I mean? So it's like, you're right, it's just letting that essence direct you. But it's realizing though that it's like something beyond you. You know what I mean? Like you're like you get yourself, like it's like, you know, there's times where people describe like, oh, it's like something took me over. Like that wasn't my wisdom, you know what I mean? Or you know what I mean? Like you don't something just takes you over and you're like, I don't even know what's coming out of my mouth right now, or like I don't even know why I did that, but it was amazing.
I read this. I wish I remembered the author. I just read this recent article on the idea of oneness, and the idea of oneness is like that the dichotomy of source and source within goes away. So we can't describe them. Once we put any words to it, it sort of starts to build the dichotomy.
Yeah.
So it's like you can't even define it.
Yeah.
It's just.
That's why it's so hard to talk about.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's straight, like, yeah. Well, and you're right. That's just the ego trying to put it in a box that makes it like recognizable.
Yeah.
But that's impossible. So.
Right.
One more time, because I just love this picture. I'm just not gonna describe
One
that.
more time.
Yeah, it's the last time. Sarah found me.
Sarah found me.
There we go.
Well, it's kind of like just like leaning into that idea of like not resisting too, and like coming back to the whole surrender thing. Like this person showed up into my life for a reason, and something about it feels good. And do you think that's kind of like can you talk about your experience like that gut versus heart versus mind like feeling?
Oh God.
You know what I mean?
Good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Sean.
Loading question.
Thank
there.
you.
I was like, I don't want to answer
I
that.
was gonna say just that gut feeling, and then the rest just came
Yeah,
out.
it's like wow.
Okay, so
Because like, how do you decipher
Yeah.
that specific? Like, that moment, was that a gut feeling?
all right,
Was
so
that
you kind of talked about this in three forms. So I'm going to relate it back to earth, heaven, and humanity, right? So if we think about like the gut, the lower abdomen, that's our connection to earth. Our brain, like our true brain, not our ego, that's our connection to heaven. Yep. Our heart is our connection to humanity, right? So the idea, is that we're trying to have all three in some form of balance, so that when we're making a decision or we're getting that ping, it like relates to all three. And when it does, then we're moving forward with something that's in alignment with heaven, earth, and humanity that exists within us. So I think when we can sometimes feel like really like, whoa, that strong like heart pull, right? And sometimes we feel a strong mind pull, and sometimes we feel like the gut. And they all kind of feel different. The gut can kind of feel like wrenchy, or it can kind of feel like bile-y, like sickish. You know what I mean? Like that sort of knowing. And the heart feels like the booming. And, the brain is like that cycling, right? So it becomes one, we have to calm the ego part down. Like we've got to get the ego to chill out so that we can actually get up to the heavens. Otherwise we never get there. We just spend time in this ego brain. We got to connect to the earth. Once we connect to the earth, and the belly's like, hey, I'm cool, because that's what it's seeking. So we're basically like stretching ourselves, throughout the universe. And by doing that, then we can like stretch outwardly, so expand the width of us into the humanity aspect. So that's when we're like really in the intuitive space of deciding. And then there's not like, we don't get those like pings in the parts as much, because they just come from the whole. They just come from the knowing. They just come from what is the truth of the essence, which is you.
So I have a question you may not have the answer to, and it's kind of like a theory based on my life. So like, you talk about this like balance, right? So in my experience with mental illness, like I literally feel like it was like a balancing of these things, like what you're talking about, and maybe more so this, and maybe it was like ego deaths going on, but there were like these spikes in like insane. I mean, I have a high energy, I think by default anyway, but like these insane spikes of energy where they're like, oh, you're like hypomanic, and then it'd be like these super lows. And I wonder if it was like, I believe it was like kind of this balance of awakening, like, okay, now I'm getting in all these things, and it's like the ego's like battling to stay alive, and then the higher self's like, no, we gotta eradicate that. So of course there's gonna be like this war waging in your head.
Yeah.
And if you don't learn to like ground and like maybe not like it's not, you're not sitting in a place of observer in mental illness. You're attaching and following all the stories and rabbit holes. And I mean, I think like I'm gonna get to the question. It's taking me a minute to get there, but like I have this theory that like when you go to a doctor or a psychiatrist, they're like, oh, you're the depressed person. So kind of like going back to your brother or cousin or something, cousin.
Yeah.
you know, they're like, oh, you can be independent. They gave him that hope, but you could go into mental illness. Oh, you're the depressed person.
Yeah.
So how's there ever going to be a solution to that? Like, I think you can transcend these things personally. I really think they're just awakening, but there's 50 million people running around on pills because they're like, oh, this is just you, and you just have to learn to manage.
I have chills. Yeah.
All right, so there's some power there. So it's like my question is like, do you think that that's like, and I don't even know if you can answer this, but like, is that what mental illness is? Is it just this trying to find that balance? And I mean, I know there's so many different ends of the spectrum due to different traumas, but like, I personally, like, I've been balanced for over a year now. So there you go, there's a lot of hope out there. But, you know, I've been balanced, and some say I don't feel these things, but I have the tools and I know how to like realign it or like work through it or reach out to a friend or whatever. But, and there is like that learning how to do that, but I just don't believe that you're the depressed person the rest of your life. You're the bipolar or schizophrenic or any of these things. Like, I just think it's like different aspects of this alignment manifesting in a physical form or whatever. Like, so I don't even know what the question is. Like, can you transcend that? Is it just what you were talking about, that alignment? You know, like, I don't even know if you're like, you can answer that, but
I feel like I can get. Let's go with it.
Yeah,
let's go with it. I have something, so let's bite it and see where we go.
Okay.
First off, whenever there's anything wrong, whether it's mental, physical, emotional, or intellectual, right? There's something that's off balance.
Mm-hmm.
Like, our body is trying to tell us something is off, right? So that's like thing number one. Something's out of balance. Thing number two is, particularly I think with mental, intellectual illnesses, is that it's serving us in some way. So how is it serving? You know, and like the reason that I think about this, I think about children with autism, right? So there's something there.
Yeah.
I don't know what's there, but I know that I see a lot of people that are now adults that had autism or have autism, and they're functioning adults, right? And many of the social oddities or social bits about them they've managed them, right? So you can have a conversation with them. How did that serve you as a child, right? And like the things that they come out with are crazy.
Yeah.
But so it's an out of balance, and then it serves in some way. And like, being human is kind of hard. Like, right? It's like the human condition. Like, that's our greatest pathology, is the human condition. Like, newsflash, being human is hard. But it doesn't have to be.
No.
Right? Like, we came here so that we can smell it, so we can taste it, so we can see it, so we can feel it, you know, so that we can be it. It's like an experience. It's a tangible experience. Otherwise, we would just hang out as spirits. Like, why not? Like, their life is way easier, you know? Like, they're just doing their thing. And, like, the only part of our spirit that kind of lives on is that heart part. So it just, like, it's like bliss out there, right? Yeah. So, like, now that we're in this human world, what are we here for? Because we wanted to smell it. We wanted to taste it. We wanted to touch it. We wanted to see it.
We all chose to be here.
We wanted to feel it.
We all chose to be
here. We chose to be here. So it becomes this contrast. Some of us realize, okay, we chose to be here, but then we get stuck in that it's hard. And then stuff happens. Like, we start to get shifted. We start to get out of balance. Yeah. You know?
Well, I think that's important too, because I know for me, like mental illness was my biggest challenge, but also like my greatest blessing, because I wouldn't be who I am today. And like, I feel like I had 5 different times where it showed up, and I feel like at first the universe is like, oh, here's a nice small slice of humble pie, Sean. Yeah. And I was like, I'm cool with my arrogant 23-year-old self.
Right.
And then it just kept coming, and then it was just like, it's like one of those things where they just smashed the pie in my face. It's like, you couldn't ignore it, you know, and I'm like, then the surrender came, and you're like, oh, okay. So I feel like it was like everything I needed, because, you know, I was kind of like privileged white kid, like parents got me everything, like did all the sports, like had a pretty awesome childhood in that regard, where like really everything was given to me on a silver platter, just gonna call it what it is, you know. And like, being broke and like having mental illness and like having those challenges were like my greatest gifts, because it like humbled me out. Like nothing's guaranteed, you know. Like, you're not meant to suffer, but like, this is actually like showing you a different perspective. Like I was talking to my parents about this. Like, I almost believe, like, I learned those lessons in my adult life, but if you grow up as a kid that maybe isn't like rich or white middle class, like, you appreciate things much more, and like different things are important to you. And I think that honestly, as just challenging as it was, and as much as I don't want anyone to go through it, like, it was so valuable to me. Like,
yeah,
when
so
I can
it
look
served.
back, yeah,
right?
absolutely. Like, it absolutely served, and like,
I
that's
mean,
why
so
I'm doing what I'm
that's
doing.
what we have to do. We have to acknowledge, like, okay, yes, this is going on. Like, yes, I have depression. Yes, I have anxiety. Yes, I have whatever. Like, that's the symptom I'm presenting with right now. I am not depression. I am not anxiety.
Exactly.
I am not whatever, right? But how is that serving me? Like, why does it keep presenting itself?
And why are doctors not saying it like that?
Well,
Because
they
doctors
don't-
are projecting it as like you are depression.
So
Right.
let's talk about that then, because
Yeah.
it's like you kind of initially were going this like normal like PT route, and then massage school,
Mhm.
but now you have a completely different mindset, I would assume, than when you first went to
Oh,
PT
100%.
school. So like, what happens next in your story?
What happens next in my story? So it's really kind of interesting. Like, I feel like my story is like so long. So went to PT school, went to the Uplitter Institute, did all my cranial sacral stuff, did the advanced classes, and like started to integrate that into the practice with the spinal cord and the brain injury clients. And I was like, okay, like, now this is making sense. And I called my cousin David, and I was like, I don't think I'm a spinal cord PT. Like, I just don't think it's my thing anymore. And he's like, that's cool. He's like, I never, expected you to go into the field. Like, it's cool that you did, but like, I get it. So I left, and I started working at a practice that was like a solely based cranial sacral practice. And it was interesting. I think the owner didn't believe in herself enough that like people would come to the practice out of their own volition. So she was like really into taking clients that had Medicaid and Medicare, because it was like, guaranteed 20 visits a year, whatever, something like that. And so I was seeing this spectrum of clients that were like wanting to come in, wanting to have body work, but like most of them did not want the expansion that came with it. Like, they were very complacent in their lives. And it was like, whoa, this is a reality check, right? And so I was kind of like, all right, how did I get here? Like, how am I here in this complacent place? Because that's like not me. You guys know me. Like, that's not really me. And it was one of those things where I had wanted to learn more about the practical essence of the technique so much that was like, that's the place that made the most sense. And so I had to transform, like, okay, this is who I am. This is who I'm going to be as a therapist. And like, they have to take it as they will and do what they do with it. Like, that part's not up to me. So I had to like surrender what happens in a session to then what happens in their life. Like, I can't control what happens in the client's lives, which was a big deal.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So that was, that lasted for like 3 years. And then I thought, I was kind of like, or 2 years maybe, I don't know. And then I was like, and I had a great mentor at the time, Gary Stiles. He was fantastic. He was awesome. I met my best friend, Julie. So like, there was like a pretty awesome network of therapists. Like, we were cool shit,
I think, can we like pause real quick to stop at that?
Pause.
I think you just said something that is so incredibly valuable, and it really like, boink, is the, once they leave your table, like, you have no control of it, and honestly, that's where the magic happens. And like, I'm gonna relate this to both of us. Like, I speak, people are like, oh, that was great and this and that, but like, there might be the kid that didn't say anything, but like, maybe he doesn't commit suicide, or who knows, maybe he changes his life. Or even for you, like, I can speak to you whether you can or not. You take wedding photos, right? Like, those last years, like, I looked through a photo book my mom gave me for Christmas in 2016, just randomly the other night, like a month ago, and bawled my eyes out for 30 minutes looking at like pictures of me in the bathtub with my sister when I was like a little boy, or like my mom holding me, and it's just like, think of how powerful that was. But that's like, those pictures were taken close to 30 years ago. So there's so much in just surrendering to the magic that happens beyond what you do. Do you have anything to say?
No.
Okay. I thought you had like a deep thought. I was like, oh, okay, I'll stop talking so you can let the magic out. But I really just think that that's important because it's like that aspect of like wanting to help people. I think sometimes there's like a control element to that. Like sometimes and maybe it's arrogant of me to say this, but like you kind of know what would be best for someone, even if they don't. And you just want to like shake them, but think about how hard it is to change ourselves, and then like to like try and get that on someone else. It's not. It's up to them. Like, and you just have to surrender to that.
I think in any profession, it's perhaps even like the real like creative, you know, like you can relate from the coaching aspect to the healing aspect, but I think from photography it's the same thing. You just like get into this neutral space, and like in that neutral space you just act as kind of a mirror so they can see themselves, and like from that perspective I'm sure you get like the best photographs, you know.
I feel like kind of like a therapist or a coach when I'm taking photos of people, especially women. Like it's just it
breaks them open, right?
Yeah. It's such a
so
beautiful
cool.
process. Yeah, no, it really is. Especially with women. Like it's like for me, a huge part of my brand too is like capturing those like in between moments. Like you as a person, like we all can look in a mirror and pick ourselves apart, or like take a selfie and like try to like position our phone a certain way to get like the good angles, or like give our camera to a friend and have them like take a photo of us, and we instantly like pick it apart and we don't like it because we're trying to pose and we're trying to look a certain way and we're trying to like be a certain like way. Whereas like for me and like getting those in between moments, it's like you get that in between laugh that you don't normally see in a photo. So like you never see yourself like that. You never see yourself like that unless you're like going into a mirror like making yourself laugh. Like you don't see those moments, you know what I mean? And like that is such a transformational thing for so many people. And so I relate to that.
I like that in between moments, like language. I think that's what we're trying to get them to feel as well. You know, you get them to see it because you actually produce that, but I want them to feel it. You know, so it's kind of the same essence.
And in time you do, like if you really want to change, like we were talking about this morning, kind of like if you really want to change something, you will. Of course you will. You won't do the things that are holding you back anymore. If you really want something.
Right.
It's
100%.
just a matter of like really opening your mind to that. And I mean, just like asking for help too, and like receiving the tools that you know are out there. Because we are so limitless.
We're totally boundless.
Yeah. Well, you made me think of this because we were talking about this morning. It's like, this is just like, again, I don't think this is me, it's my inner universe speaking, but it's like the fear of letting that thing go, like the unknown of what else is, what I'm like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I won't go into like details about what we were talking about, but like for me, it's like, well, if I let go of X, X, and X, like, well, there's a lot of room, but then what do I fill it with?
It's gonna be magical.
Well, yeah, I know, but that's, I don't know.
There's like a whole universe of possibilities that you're closing yourself off to.
No, I understand. No, I fully understand that, but I think that goes down to like root chakra stuff, like not trusting that universal, like, which I also have a ton of root chakra stuff. Just so you guys know, you didn't know me even more. But
let's just balance your lower dantian, connect you to the earth.
Sweet
healing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm working on it right now. So,
done.
Oh, done. Okay, guys, I'm magically fixed.
I think we're
The magic.
I feel healed.
I mean, it stopped snowing, so clearly the healing is happening. So magic going on up in this business. So where should we transition to? We want to talk about dolphins, or is that want to jump in? Like, I want to talk about dolphins.
I want to talk about dolphins too.
Right.
Okay, so let's fast forward so my story kind of makes sense. So left that job, went to a sports ortho job where I thought I was going to work with kids. They didn't like accept insurance for kids, so that was like a fail. Wanted to work with kids because I wanted to awaken my inner child. Basically, that's what happened. Took a contract with like the school here in Dover and another school. Worked with kids for like 9 years, which was awesome in some ways, but it was also like a fight in a lot of ways. Like a fight for the kids to have this, a fight for them to have this, a fight for like how they should be doing whatever. And there's no money. And it was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? That whole time I had my private practice as well. My private practice like lit me up. So even though I only had like half of each day to be doing that, it was like what made me kind of like my heart sing. And then I started seeing kids in my private practice, like it just kind of happened. And I was like, oh, I I can actually help them here. You know what I mean? It's no longer a fight. It's no longer do these exercises. It's like I can put them on the table and work with them. Okay, awesome. So this was kind of going on at the same time, and then I left, and that was great because then I became like embodied into like, you know, being a healer, which is just being a facilitator, which is really cool. So in 2009, I'm at a cranial sacral class. I was at Somato Emotional Release 2 in Puerto Rico with Chaz Perry, who's like this amazing, amazing therapist. He's awesome. I love him so much. And everyone spoke Spanish except me. Like I could understand Spanish, but I couldn't speak it. And this one lady who lived in Puerto Rico. And so of course I get partnered with one person who speaks in English, which is perfect. And she says to me, I'm on the table. She and her name is Debbie and her friend Nora, they're both working on me. And she's like, oh my gosh, you're like a dolphin. And I say, I was one in another life. And like, no idea where that came from. Like totally the universe. Cause I just like, I didn't have like the ability to say that physically, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So we work together for the weekend. And then she says like, let's start a dolphin healing program. I have these contacts.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just met this woman, like, and she was really like type A. Like she's awesome, but really type A.
Yeah.
And I was like, do I just trust her? Like, what do I do? And then of course I know that the Institute and Chaz are like doing a program. So like I asked Chaz to lunch and I was like, so I don't even know what happened, Chaz, like, but let me tell you the story. So I tell him the story and I'm like, so here's the opportunity. Like, do I do this? And he's like, yes, do it. So I was like, okay, I just do it. And like, that was it. So I started working at the time with dolphins that were in an open ocean lagoon. And we did actual therapy sessions. So we're doing cranial sacral on a human. They were laying in the water in our hands. And then dolphins would interact with the humans, which is super cool. Like they'd like use sonar, they'd touch the humans, like crazy, crazy stuff happened. And then it evolved into working with wild dolphins as well in the Bahamas. And so now I'm solely working with wild dolphins. It just felt like that was the natural progression of evolution. And it's been, since 2009, which is kind of crazy.
So like what is your piece with like the dolphins? Like tell us more about that if you're comfortable. Like do you telekinesis connect with them? Like how does it, like do you connect? Like what is your, how does that work?
Yeah, like whoa. So it was probably after, so Debbie and I worked together for a year, and then like she did her thing with her business and I did my thing with mine. So we kind of split, which is our plan. Because it was sort of hard. She lived in Puerto Rico, I lived in New Hampshire. It didn't make a lot of sense to have two, businesses interacting that way. So when I started to work on my own, after the first like group of sessions that I did with clients, we had these 6 amazing women that were with clients, with the dolphins. The trainer and the vet called me one day from Tortola and were like, hey, something's going on with Venus. And I was like, oh, she's my dolphin. Like, so I was kind of freaked out, like, all right, what's going on? She's not eating, whatever. And they're like, can you just tune in? And I'm like, okay, like, sure, this feels right. Why don't I just tune in? Like, because they would see me like sitting on the dock and just like hanging out with her, spending time with her, right? Yeah. And so I tune in and I'm like, oh, she's pregnant. That's why she's not eating, she's pregnant. And they were like, seriously? And I'm like, yeah. And they were like, she's not supposed to be pregnant. Like she, whatever, like the timing wasn't right. I'm like, no, she's pregnant. So they tested her and of course she was pregnant.
Wow.
And so that was like moment number 1 when I was like, okay, like there's something here. Like, and I don't even know where it came from. It was one of those, universe speaking through me kind of things. And then it just became like evident that she wanted to connect with me more regularly. So we've been talking every day for like, 8 years now.
That's so legit. So cool.
Is that where your like dolphin, is that where everything dolphin started?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, kind of. Like that's where my consciousness like related to it. But subconsciously, so when I was 5, you know the story.
Yeah, I think this is what I'm thinking of.
So when I was 5, my parents took me to SeaWorld, like everyone's parents, right? And so went to SeaWorld. I guess I was in love with the dolphins. I don't really remember the experience that much. When I was 18, I was on this leadership conference. Went to SeaWorld again. And called my mom and explained this story. I was like, Mom, today I saw these dolphins. I was totally fascinated, but I put my hand into like the pool that they were in. And a dolphin came up and like grabbed onto my hand. And she's like, oh yeah, no big deal. And I'm like, what do you mean no big deal? And I was like, it didn't bite me. You know, my mom's like one of those worry kind of people.
Yeah.
And so I thought for sure she's going to be like, oh my God, are you okay? Do you need a tetanus shot? You know what I mean? Like crazy.
Yeah.
And nothing happened. And I'm like, why are you not reacting? And she's like, that's exactly what happened when you were 5. And I was like, whoa.
So crazy.
So I like started to tune into it, and I realized that like through the teeth, like the dolphin's teeth, they were offering some kind of energy. And I think it was like the first offering of what I now call dolphin energy. I think the official attunement was a different story, but basically this was like the first interaction. And I said as a child several times, I want to be a marine biologist, whatever, but like never got there. You know, it's one of those like weird careers, and a lot of people say that.
Yeah.
Never got there. And I kind of knew at like 23, 24, 25, 26, like there's something with dolphins. Like I would see like pictures of dolphins, or like a client would bring me a CD that had a dolphin on the cover, you know, just like weird stuff. Like they kind of kept coming in, but I didn't know how it was going to transition. And then it was like that one day in Puerto Rico, you know, I happened to be partnered with the right person who had all the connections, and
This is so
started.
interesting. I have so many things going through my mind right now. Well, remember the whales, first of all.
Yeah.
We met at, what was it, like, this was in the summer. We met at wow, your memory's so good.
Oh,
We
yeah.
met
Oh,
at
yeah.
Sunrise.
Yeah.
We were doing that, like, I don't know why. We just decided we were meeting at Sunrise at Venice Beach. And we went there one morning. And there were 2, I forget what kind. There were 2 whales that were just cruising up the shoreline.
But like
Yeah.
we saw them like jump all the way out of the
explode
water.
out of the water. Yeah.
On Jen's
And-
beach at like 6 a.m.
So that was going through my head, but then also like when I was a little boy, I think it was like the Boston Aquarium, or maybe SeaWorld, because I think we did go there. But I just remember this one experience where it was a walrus tank, and we were like underground, so it was just almost like Free Willy, it was just like the glass, like you know. And there was this one walrus that like was all about me, like just came over. There's like all kinds of other people just came right up to me, and like. I just kind of started messing with him, like, I don't know what I was doing. I was like a little kid, and I'd move over here, and he'd just like follow me, and I was doing my hands, and he just wouldn't leave me alone. Like he was just like, yo, you and me, bro. And I still don't know what that means, but it was like one of those like moments where like even my parents were like, what is going on? It's so cool. Like he just it was all in my like it was just like one of those cool experiences, but it kind of reminds me of. So there's probably more going on there because. I don't know, I got to sing with animals too, and like I've had, you know, I get the girlfriend with the dog, I'm like, oh, if he doesn't like you, and like, I'm just like, nah, he's gonna love me every single time, and like, these dogs just like animals fall in love with me in like a second, so there's something there, and that's why I'm like, there's so much going on, and I don't know, and I'm like, okay, I don't know all of this, but it's like, it's kind of like giving me like all these like little kid feelings, like I don't know, like there's something there, I don't know.
Whoa. I'm getting like tripped out now. I get the sense that like animals are coming, like they're coming to you in different forms, trying to share the same message with you. I don't know what the message is, but you're like,
I'm stubborn, it takes me a minute.
Yeah. You're being a little bit stubborn with the animals. Like they're coming and they're trying to say, hello, wake up.
Yeah, well, I'm waking up. I'm like, what are you trying to tell me, people or humans or whatever you are?
You have to stop and just like, and just listen.
Yeah.
Like let their voice be louder than yours.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're all coming though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Heron, hawk, eagle, walrus.
You do see a lot of animals.
I do. Deer.
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, that's my work. Anyway, this is we're actually having a healing session right now.
Sean's healing session live coming to you.
Oh, that would be so fun.
That would be kind of cool.
Okay, so dolphins. Yeah, now you do the retreats.
Mm-hmm.
Is this what every once a year?
Yeah. So once a year at the moment. That's kind of the vibe. So it took a while, like, you know, to kind of transition into what does feel like home. Especially since Tortola was like home for so long. It was like 5 years, and then the hurricanes came, and like it was just, you know, we couldn't be there anymore. The dolphins couldn't be there. They were basically moved and they're safe and stuff, but like the whole energy, like it was like impact energy disperse. and like, whoa. And at the time I was already working with wild dolphins, so there was like, for me, there was like a continuation. It was a clear path to keep going this direction, but it was still really hard because that place was like home, and those dolphins were like home. You know, there were like 9 of them. I watched them go through like several pregnancies and like have babies, and like the process was beautiful, you know? And I just, it was bizarre to like have the energy disperse. And then going to Tortola, I had a boat captain who I worked with who then kind of just like suddenly like was gone. And so it was like, okay, I guess that's not home, you know?
Yeah.
And then it was kind of like, where is home? So I'm really excited that this year, this summer coming up, we finally like, we've established home. We have our home on South Bimini now, and like our access point to be with dolphins is like totally established, totally awesome.
Cool.
It's like, yeah, it
Maybe
feels
I can
really
go swim with
awesome.
dolphins with you.
Totally.
That might be a thing.
Your mom wants to go too.
My mom
right?
wants to go. Mom, let's go.
Kelly?
Going to Bimini.
Where's my geographic skills are?
Yeah, so Bimini is
Lackluster.
it's one of the islands in the Bahamas. It's,
Okay.
It's the closest to the like Florida, like Fort Lauderdale. So it's pretty easy to get to.
Do you know what month that's in? Do you want to tell the people? Or do you know?
Yes, it is in June and July. There were 2 weeks this year.
Do you have the weeks?
They're on
So,
my
okay,
website.
that's
They're on my website. You
That's
guys
okay.
know how good I am with details.
Yeah, well, hey, we're just, I'm just trying to get the word out.
And
there.
promoting things.
Well,
It's like-
what's your website? There we go. What's your website?
Yeah. So my website is Krystal, Krystal Couture, COUTURE.com. And you can find the dolphin retreats there. So they're awesome. The really exciting thing, I haven't even like released them officially yet, so we can say this is the official like public release of the trips. But I already have 4 people coming on each week, so the like spots are filling up really fast.
Nice.
And they're limited to 6 participants.
Oh,
It's
wow.
like, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So you have
super,
4 total
like-
spots left.
Yeah, 4 total spots left. It's like
Hostile pants,
super,
people.
yeah,
Dang.
super intimate retreats.
Okay,
like,
cool. I like
yeah,
that. I like that.
really
style.
going deep into the stuff.
I love that.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I'm so excited.
My
Like,
gut
I
just
can't
did a
even.
thing.
I know.
Yeah,
I go for the dolphins.
they're
I
so
can have any
fun.
other.
They're so fun.
I feel like that'd be so. I feel like I'd just be like a little kid, like, hi,
You
dolphin.
would. You'd be a lot.
Yeah.
You'd be a lot to
I
handle.
would just, yeah, I would be
Maybe
like,
the dolphins would like
they would just like swim me off into like the open ocean and be like, okay, we'll take
take
him out
you
here.
away for a day
Yeah,
and like
we're
return
gonna
you.
take Sean out there.
Return you loved and enlightened.
Yeah, it's like, I speak to dolphins now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, there's so many questions I want to keep asking you.
Well, let me ask you this because
But Sean's gonna
I'm-
ask you.
I was gonna ask
no,
you.
because I'm sorry. This is just an important one because I feel like I don't want to say it's been all rainbows and ponies, but like, what's been the biggest challenge on this path?
Well, I was gonna ask you a very similar
Ooh.
question.
Because I feel like we've been like, oh, it's all rainbows and ponies.
Yeah, you know, it's been a lot of rainbows and unicorns, ponies too. But
Ponies are unicorns technically, so.
right.
Right. I'm sorry. I don't know why I did that. You always do that, so I don't want to hear it. Go ahead, Krystal.
It's all good. It gave me a moment to kind of like pause into it. You know, I think the hardest thing, there have definitely been moments where I felt like confused about the path, you know, and like filling in the spaces in my path with things that didn't fit just because they served in some way. Like, you know, there was a definite point, like the school contracts, they served me for a while to like sort of get me into feeling the inner child again. But there was also a point where like that scale tipped and it became serving a financial, you know, intention rather than anything else.
Yeah.
And like, that's so like, oh my gosh, that's so not me.
Mhm.
That's not who I am.
Mhm.
Like, but it was kind of one of those things, like, I wasn't ready, you know, to like step into myself. I wasn't ready to be vulnerable. I wasn't ready to, I hate to sound cliche, but like have a brand that was based off of who I am. And so it kind of was able to hide, you know? And then beyond that, like my practice was in Rollinsford, New Hampshire for 10 years. Like Rollinsford. Who has a practice in Rollinsford? I mean, it's an awesome town. It's like so beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
But like, you just hide there.
Yeah,
You
it is.
know,
Good
you just
place.
hide there. And so I was just hiding. like, and that was probably the hardest thing to realize is like, you know, I was just kind of hiding out and like not willing to like come into who I was or come into the power that like I had as a healer. Yeah, it makes me emotional to like think about that. You know, it makes me sad. Yeah. But I would say that was definitely from a business perspective, that was the hardest part. And then I think also like I have a tendency to want to do something perfectly, right? And like go into this knack of perfection. And that can sometimes mean control. So particularly with dolphins, when I started the business, it was like, okay, I have to control what this is gonna be like. Not so much when we were in the water, like that part I was cool with just letting evolve. Like healing sessions are always easy for me, they always have been. But it was like the getting there that was kind of tricky. You know what I mean? It was like, okay, this has to be organized, this hotel has to be organized, this bus has to be organized, people can't be late, all of these things, right? And like they would really freak me out and like I'd lose my shit because I like couldn't manage like what are we gonna do if this isn't working? And like that was a major restriction too, because once I just let go of it and was like, okay, like this is the expectation, people showed up when they were supposed to, you know. Everything worked out. The relationships that I built were strong, so I don't know why I didn't trust them, you know.
So what's a piece of advice that you have for people either starting some kind of creative endeavor or jumping into entrepreneurship or something?
Yeah. It's like instead of tuning into like what you should do, tuning into like what feels good to you. And like there's so many shoulds, like especially in the health field, it's like I should take insurance, I should do this, I should use this modality. You know, probably in other businesses there's all these shoulds as well. I just know the health field better. And those just get you nowhere except further away from who you are. You know? And that's lame.
Yeah. What would you say is like your biggest driving force in what you do?
My biggest driving force. Does that make sense? Yeah. I mean, I guess it's just seeing the expansion that's possible, like within humanity. It's like seeing the potential, you know, in myself, seeing the potential within others, and just wanting to like tap into that in a big way, you know, and like clients, they're the inspiration. You know, for me, they're totally the inspiration. Like, why else would I do it? You know?
So for you as a healer, what's the most important thing about being a healer for you?
Oh gosh, it's like doing your own work. 100% doing your own work. Like, yeah, you can't just put your hands on clients all day. You can't just stick needles in clients all day. You can't exchange energy with clients all day and not be doing that stuff for yourself. Like you have to be working on your stuff too.
Well, I feel like the healer path, at least in my experience, because I feel like I'm getting there. I feel like I've been hiding for a long time. There's this aspect of it's just a reflection of you trying to heal yourself.
Right.
Like, really, because like oftentimes when you're trying to do that for other people, it's just a way to ignore healing your own shit.
Right.
Because it's easier for me to be like, oh, I'm a healer, so here's the things, instead of being like, oh my god, I feel like shame and unworthy and like I don't want to deal with that shit. Let's just mask it with me fixing you.
Well, we've actually had conversations like this often where I'll literally be like, one day I just remember being like, Sean, you just need to pick one thing and you need to focus on it and you need to stop getting distracted by all the other things. And I immediately looked at him and I was like, that was meant for me. Like I wanted to say that to myself. Like, you know? And I feel like healing in many ways is like that as well. I think
of course it is.
Sean actually wanted to ask you something similar to this, but like, do you think your journey of like becoming a healer in some way was reflective of you becoming the person that you needed at an earlier stage in your life?
I mean, I think it's like, yeah, totally, 100%. And I think it's the person I need in my life now. You know what I mean? Yeah, 100%.
Well, because I think something I'm going through is like that inner child is still alive. Anyone that knows me, I'm like 30 going on 5, just like my dad, 58 going on 6. But you have to be your own parent now.
Yeah.
Like you need to be able to hold yourself. Like I actually had a healing session the other day with someone, and it was wicked. Like I felt like not drained, but just like tired. You know, energy work can be like really like exhausting. And then after I was exhausted, it gave me space to just bawl my eyes out for like 40 minutes, and I literally just sat there on the edge of the table, like holding myself. And that does sound really weird, but I just did. And I was just like what I needed, because I like was having all these visions of like my inner little boy like running free through fields, and like I think I was grieving like not feeling like that for 30 years, and just being like, well, I'm here, go run in the field, bro, do your thing, man. And like we don't do that. Who talks about that? You know what I mean? Like we don't do that for ourselves. But at the end of the day, like I had to tell my cousin this. You know, he's actually going to be on January 7th. Like no one's coming to fucking save you. Like, I'm just going to give you that hard fact because I was waiting for someone to save me for so long. No one's coming. You got to do it or you got to ask for help, you know? And I think, like, we don't hear that often enough. And I think it's super important.
Yeah, I think you have to be in the receiving mode for help, you know? And I think it comes in different ways. Sometimes it comes in ways that you can attach, you know, some kind of feeling to, and sometimes help comes in ways that is much more ethereal, you know. Sometimes it's from us, sometimes it's from others, but we have to like say, yes, like I need help, yes, we need help, whatever it is. Like I'm vulnerable to being exposed and asking for some kind of guidance or assistance right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, accepting that you need help too, I feel like is
like hello humanity, we're not alone. Like we're infinitely connected to humanity. Like why can't we just tap into that? You know?
Yeah. Well, that's vulnerability, right? It's like I'm not perfect. That was the most freeing thing ever. Like I was the same thing. Everything had to be perfect in a certain way, and it's like, dude, I fuck up all the time, and it's like, yeah, we're gonna fuck up some more, and like you just give yourself permission to fuck up. It's part of the human existence, and like just laugh, learn to laugh.
Knowing that doesn't define you.
No.
By any means.
No. It takes the pressure off, and like we have enough pressure. Like I said, being human, it's hard. So this is like stop trying to be perfect. You're never gonna attain it ever.
Totally.
So it's like there's so much freedom in that. Now I want to ask you. So we have a podcast, but you have a podcast.
Yeah, tell them about your podcast.
Tell the peeps.
Yeah, so my podcast is going through a little bit of an evolution at the moment. So partially stay tuned because I don't know where it's going exactly. But up to this point, I think we've done like 35 episodes. They're on iTunes and all those cool podcast streams, Google and whatever the Android platform is. I don't know. It's on there. It's called Be Purely Balanced. And up to this point, we've been interviewing other healers about their modality and how like their modality has served them. So so really cool, kind of just reflecting. It started off as an intention, like there's a lot of super cool modalities out there that people don't know about, and so we use the modality to sort of facilitate a conscious conversation.
Nice.
And so I know that we're going to continue with conscious conversations, but I'm not sure exactly what's next. I'm sort of waiting for it to translate in. The 35 podcasts that are up are awesome. They just talk about like different types of healers with different healers, what's going on, and like some of them have amazing backstories. Vulnerable, just right out there. It was so enlightening to share the stories in the way. And the messages, it's funny because messages become similar, right? It's like, it's like tuning into consciousness, you know, that could be like the global message, right? And it could just have different words, but I think each podcast kind of speaks to a different light about that, you know, in a different way. And so it's going to speak to different people in a different way, you know. Healers love it because they can like get tuned in different ways. And some of the practitioners led meditations, one did a sound healing, like, so some pretty cool healing stuff happened on the podcast.
That's amazing.
Which I love. So in January, we will be announcing what's next.
Oh, so excited.
So maybe the next evolution of us is getting a pool in here and getting a live dolphin.
Yes. Well, and definitely we're going to have Krystal back on the podcast because I can see that our computers are about to die. Which is really upsetting because I could stay here all day.
Oh, wow. Go ahead.
No, so
we killed the batteries.
I
think the energy does that. Like as soon as we like bring in the energy of the universe, it's like technology out.
Yeah.
Didn't you charge us all night?
I know, they're 100% when we started.
Yeah.
So we're just a lot of energy.
I mean, we did get like really excited that time.
We did. Yeah. We did. We started calling the green blobs things. So
what?
I'm gonna ask you what a wild heart means to you, and then if Sean has any final questions, he can ask you, and then we're gonna have to wrap it up in a second. Oh,
it's so sad. I don't
want to.
So I think a wild heart is like the unmuted, unsolicited version of who we are. It's our essence. You know, it's just like who we are at our core, without restriction, without boundary. You know, just being source, being the light.
I like that.
Yeah, that's it. Like there's no more. Just be in the light.
I was thinking about that this morning, just like how
Felt that in my third eye.
how your light, like we are so good at dimming our own lights. That's what my entire meditation was this morning, just like this whole light like taking me over. And I was like, was like seeing myself in such a dark, like in a dark way this morning for some reason. It's like when you really allow your own light to like shine and take over your entire being, it just it changes the way you present your entire day and go into the world.
I think there's something to that because it's being able to hold that. Because it's powerful. Like, so, I don't know, I'm just going to do it because I feel called to, but like I'm going through this thing with, like, I'm doing this thing with, like, sex and that sexual energy and, like, not having it. Learning to, like, hold that energy because there's this element of, for me as a man, and I'm sure, I don't know exactly how it works biologically for women, but it's like, you feel those, like, urges and that energy, and it's like, I haven't been trained or taught how to hold it, so my body's like, yeah, I want to release. And the physical manifestation of release is, you know, there's ways to do that, but it's like learning to hold that.
This is like a whole new conversation.
I know.
Well, like you opened this up like 7%.
We can have a bonus. This could be the bonus content, but I really feel like I just felt like the way you said that though is because it's learning to hold that, like, and it's scary because it's powerful, and like I know for me, like I feel these like surges, and I think it's like learning how to move it into different areas and move it throughout my body instead of being focused in one area. But it's really hard. It's really fucking hard learning to like hold that energy. And yeah, I know this could go into a million different places, but it is. I mean, I think it's the same thing with the light. It's like, oh my God, I'm feeling too powerful. And I know for me, like some of the stuff that came up this morning is like fear of being alone, fear of abandonment. So like, if I fully step into that light and power, like, are they gonna run away? Because like the truth of the matter is, like, literally women have run away. Like they've been like, oh yeah, you're too awesome, and it scared me. Like, what the fuck do you do with that? You know, like, I mean, I'm not trying to, like, that's just my reality. Like that has happened, and it's like, okay, well, what message is that telling me? You know what I mean? So it is. It's really hard to like hold that. So like then you're like, oh, let me just like sabotage or dim the light or discount myself in some way.
Yeah. I think that happens. I think it comes with like our value and how we hold ourselves sacred, you know? And once we do that, we have like awareness to what truth is. And if someone says that, then, okay, what does it mean to us? But also, what does it mean is within them, you know? And is it a gift in disguise? Because very often there are gifts in disguise.
Yeah. So many more things I want to ask you.
I know. I wish we weren't done.
We should record a bonus episode. I think we're gonna end this for now. We're gonna do a bonus.
Bonus content.
Yeah.
Oh yes, I was really excited that we could see the Christmas tree.
I know. We made sure.
Yeah, Sierra, if you're watching, hold on, look.
Oh, please don't break anything, Sean.
Listen, I'm just the man that holds.
This is podcasting with props.
This is the episode where we just bring things in.
Hold on. I'm Vanna White today, guys.
Vanna White. Here we go.
This is for you, Sierra. Merry Christmas, everyone. Jingle bells.
You're too much. Oh my goodness. All right. Anything else that you want to tell the people? We didn't even tell people your business name.
Oh yeah, my business name is Pure Balance Holistic Healing.
Yeah, so
that's important.
You can just find me. Just search for my name, Krystal Couture. That usually brings me up pretty easily. Yeah.
Anything else you want to add?
No, that's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
there's like so much, but like
we're gonna have you back because this conversation could go.
Enough.
This is one of those conversations where I'm like, wow, it's been over an hour. Like I don't understand.
Yeah,
I feel like it was like 20 minutes.
Yeah,
No.
it's just like, it's 10:30.
Yeah. All right, my computer's literally saying low battery, so
no battery.
let's end this thing.
End. Whoa. End.
End.